Hi, and welcome to another episode of Next Gen Hotel Cast. This is James Bennett, social hotel guy, and with me is Scott Roloff. Scott, how you doing?
Very good.
You know, it's an exciting day for us.
Totally. It's going to be great. Can't wait.
I'm still not sure how it's happening, but it is. We were able to get a hold of Anthony Melchiorri. Scott, why don't you tell everybody who's listening, in case they've been living under a rock, who that is?
Anthony is the host of a very popular reality series on the Travel Channel called Hotel Impossible. And it is it relates to everything we talk about on our podcast. It's totally real, it's raw, and it shows you what's behind the scenes in operating a hotel. And it's given the public a good view of what goes on, too.
I got to tell you, there's two things I like about this. You know, number one is I've always said that the experiences we have at a hotel would make a great coffee tale book, but they'd probably think it was fiction.
Yeah.
This shows people that this craziness really happens.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing I like about it is, and I'm not exaggerating, tell me if I'm wrong, but you could almost take these episodes, put your desk clerks and your housekeeping staff down in a room and play them and train them with them.
Yeah, they're like training. They're like raw training videos. The things that he touches on, just on the ones I've seen, I haven't seen every one, but the stuff is like, oh, I wish I could play that to my staff right now, just that little segment. And he says a lot of things, and he says it very well. It's just perfect.
And in case you're wondering where you can get these, because we tried really hard to get a hold of them, YouTube has sections and clips. Travel Channel has not yet released these, even for purchase, but you can go to iTunes if you have an iTunes account, and you could purchase a season pass. I think it's $15, or for $2 an episode, you can download the individual episodes. And I would really literally say, especially if you're a GM, right, or an owner that's been harping on the fundamentals to your staff for the last God knows how long, and you want them to see that it's not just you that's saying this, sit him down in front of one of these episodes, because he's going to come right out and he's going to preach to the choir. He's going to talk about the fundamentals. He's going to talk about clean first. He's going to talk about attention to details, about customer service, how important TripAdvisor is, all the things you're trying to convince your staff of. It's going to be in that episode. I mean, am I exaggerating here?
Oh, I love how direct he is. He doesn't beat around the bush. He tells people how they're doing right immediately. If you're dropping the ball, you know it instantly. And people try to backpedal or try to, skate around his questions, and he just calls them out. It's great. Doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. They're calling him a hotel fixer, and I love that term because, in a very real way, a lot of hotels are broken. Yep. I mean, that doesn't mean they're not working at all, but it means that they're not working up to their potential.
Yeah, I mean, they're in the service industry. We are servants, essentially. That's what our job is. And a lot of hotels get side-focused on just money. And if it's just about money, you're never going to be a great operation. It's about service. That's really the first thing that we do.
You have to be hospitable. It's in the word.
Yep.
You're right. I mean, and honestly, if you're an owner and it's just about the bottom line, you should probably open a dry cleaner.
Yeah.
Because there's no service required. But the dry cleaner drives me crazy. Go ahead.
Well, the truly great thing about hotels is the ones, and I've seen the P&Ls of so many, the ones that really do focus on service first are paid off the dividends. The money does come back to those who really understand where the focus begins.
And if you want to look at a hotel that's 30 years old and still operating, it has to have the service. It has to have the service. It doesn't even mean it could be a national landmark. If it doesn't have the service element, it's going to close. It's going to be replaced. It's not going to make it. You don't believe me? Drive down Route 66. I've lived in Amarillo for the last 7 years. There's 3 shut down, overgrown, weed-infested hotels for every hotel that's still open on Route 66.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what happens when there's no service, no attention to details, no hospitality.
I can't discount location either. I'm not saying location isn't important, but if you've got the location, people are coming to the area, just dominate that area in service and you'll be on top.
Yeah, unfortunately, how many locations can you name that you want to be?
Well,
chances are the majority of our hotels are in towns that are outside.
Yeah, and they can be good destination points.
Sure.
I'm amazed at how often the outlying hotels outside of the cities have such great demand. I mean, there's just not a lot of places for these working people to go, and they need a home away from home.
Or the leisure tourists or the FIT travelers. I mean, I'm in beautiful Alpine, Texas right now. And the one thing I could say about Alpine, and nobody here will even argue with me, you can't get here on accident. Okay? The nearest major interstate is an hour away.
Wow.
You've got to take a state road to get off a state road, and then eventually you end up in Alpine. There's no way to get here on accident. There's no one that says, oh, I was tired, I was driving, and I stopped at Alpine. No. You only got here if you meant to get here. This is as off the beaten path as you can get, but it still, for some people, is a destination. So you're right. Even these small towns out in the middle of nowhere still provide, a nice break, for the leisure traveler or the foreign independent traveler. The service, though, has to be key. Let's talk about the fixer a little. How much do you know a lot about Anthony Melchiorri, or you want me to fill you in here?
You can tell me what you know. I just know a little bit from the show on YouTube.
Well, I'll tell you the first thing I knew about Anthony was that he's from New York. I mean, he's a New Yorker. It comes across in his mannerisms, his speech, everything, and he's passionate about service. So let's talk a little bit about that. He's been in the industry over 20 years.
He's got an impressive resume, too. He's been in some amazing hotels.
Absolutely. The Nickelodeon Hotel.
Yep.
He opened that. He ran the Algonquin Hotel in New York. Also started at, he worked at the Plaza. I think he was the director of front office operations there. He was named GM at the age of 29 for the Lucerne Hotel. So this guy really, really knows how to open a hotel. But more importantly, he knows how to take a hotel that's already existing, already has its successes and its failures, and turn it around and make it a world-class property. So this is someone you should listen to, right?
Oh, yeah. Just that last episode I saw, he took a hotel and he 2 to 5 times what they were getting for a room. He bumped up the value that much. I mean, it huge impact on the bottom line. Not like an incremental 5% increase. We're talking totally revolutionary.
I was skeptical when I heard about this show. Having been a consultant for so many years, I'm thinking, okay, well, it's a hotel consultant. He's very successful, but he's successful in resorts. How is this going to speak to me in limited or service hotels or in smaller hotels and tertiary markets? And then I watched it. And I think the very first episode I ever watched, I was watching with my wife, and it was about the New York Hotel, which ironically enough is in Florida, not in New York. And it was actually the New York Motel, right?
Yeah.
And it's like 2 or 3 story exterior courtyard motel, which he, during the process of the show, he converts the sign from motel to hotel, which I almost cheered. It was like a tear-jerking moment.
Right.
And I was hooked. And I went, you know what? This guy's cleaning toilets.
Yep.
This guy's jumping in a pool with the staff to show his commitment. It doesn't matter what kind of hotel you run.
Right. The stuff that he talks about, whether it's a 5-star hotel, it applies to a very common name hotel or a 2 or 3 star. A lot of the stuff. Now, sometimes he does say to a 5-star hotel, you should not have dust on your railing walking in. This is a 5-star hotel. This should be spotless. But wouldn't it be great if all of our hotels could have that mentality all the time? But that's exactly what he's saying is totally on spot.
Oh, one of the things we've said for a very long time on the podcast is the only difference between a 5-star hotel and a 3-star hotel is your commitment to service.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have a 3-diamond Best Western in Hoboken and have 5-star customer service. And I think that's what he's talking about.
Right. Well, I remember we were talking about things we could do to make a 3-star hotel have that feel, like adding extra staff at night and doing little things, waters and whatnot. But that's totally right.
As a matter of fact, I think that was our first episode where we talked about utilizing that multifunction evening or late afternoon staffer. Someone that could work on laundry, they could do bell staff, they could run the gamut and even help in reservations. And although, that's crazy to say. How many years ago was that, Scott?
That was a long time. What, 2008?
2008. That's amazing. 4 years we've been talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
But I will say that in this last 4 years, this is probably one of the most exciting podcasts that for me that I've ever done.
Yeah, this is really going to be exciting, and we need to follow up with big, just more of the same, because that's exactly what we need to be doing. I love these type of interviews when you're talking to an expert in the industry. We ourselves have bounced off our ideas off each other for years, but bringing in people like Anthony is just fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. I'm totally pumped up for this experience. And like you said, we've been bouncing these ideas off each other for years, but I'm sure you're ready to hear someone different, right?
Yeah, I'm really getting sick of hearing your...
All right. So, oh, God. I'm sure my wife agrees. And most of my staff, too, to be perfectly honest. So here's what we're going to do. Let's give you a little bit of a background and housekeeping. Scott and I have about a 15-minute window with Anthony. He's going to be on a telephone because he's traveling for the show at the moment. So you might hear some background noise, maybe some honking, whatever. Please try and ignore it. Just concentrate on what he has to say, because I know it's going to be great. And we're going to take a break. We'll actually play a quick commercial when we come back. We'll get right in with Anthony. Does that sound good to you, Scott?
That sounds great. I'm looking forward to talking to him.
All right. Well, we'll be right back, folks. And in case I forget to say it later, because I'm pretty excited, thanks for allowing us to talk to you about hospitality.
To maximize your internet presence and marketing, it is necessary to take a next-gen approach. Next-gen Hospitality Solutions will guide you through the vital world of social media management. Social media is the newest and perhaps most innovative and vital form of marketing to come along in decades. Allow Next-Gen Hospitality Solutions to take the mystery out of internet marketing and maximize your internet market sales. Call us today at 1-806-416-1654. And remember, a Next-Gen Hospitality Solution is the only solution that makes sense.
All right, and so Anthony has now joined us on the line. Again, I want to reiterate how grateful we are to have him on the show. We're very excited about this. We're going to try and get through it without too much stuttering and fanboy guffaws. But as you know, Scott and I are big fans, Anthony, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Anthony, the first question I think we really want to know, and this is something Scott and I have discussed a lot on our podcast. We see on your show that you have to revisit the fundamentals a lot. Do you think this is the result of the recent boom in development without a corresponding increase in qualified labor pool, or do you think it's a basic lack of GM training, or is it even possibly the accidental hotelier career path that we see so much?
I think it's all three, to be perfectly honest with you. But it's too easy to blame the employees. It's too easy to blame lack of training. It usually comes down to the owners. As you see on the show, the owners are typically inexperienced, and they typically blame the employees, or they blame the economy, or they blame South Beach disease because everybody's lazy because of the sun. So people just don't take, and I think that's true really, not only in the hotel business. I think that's true right now in our culture in America, that people look for the easy excuse. And when they realize that this is a very hard business, but easy business if you concentrate on the fundamentals. And I don't care if you're an asset manager, I don't care if you're an owner or a general manager or a housekeeper. People want a smile and a clean bed. There was just a USA Today poll, and I think 90% of the people polled, their number one concern was cleanliness. So
Sure.
Out of all the things they asked, 90% of people said, give me a clean room and everything else is okay. So people overcomplicate things because they've never been in the business before. They think they're missing something. So they try to reinvent themselves, or they try to reinvent the hotel, and just don't concentrate on the basics. Once you have the basics, then the hotel becomes fun. Then you can market. Then you can do things with your staff. Then you can do things that you enjoy doing. But you have to take care of the fundamentals. So I think, to answer your question, I really think it's all three, but with the number one being that the owners typically just are not prepared to run hotels.
That's a scathing insight there. I mean, honestly, when you think about it, there are requirements for GMs in a brand, but there's no requirements for an owner, correct?
Right. I think I said in one of the shows, I don't know if it was edited out yet, but I said that there should be mandatory before somebody signs a legal document giving them a hotel. They should be able to go to ownership school. You know, when you have a baby, you should have to take parenting classes. It should be mandatory. when you take a hotel, you should have hotel training.
I think if you ran for president right now, you'd have the hotel vote. I really think that's true.
Well, my wife said to me, because I've done a lot in my career, and she said, if you run for president, I'm done. You will get divorced tomorrow.
There you go. Scott, you had a question for Anthony.
Yes, and I know you just kind of answered with clean rooms and having a smile, but other than that, do you see anything else that consumers are going to really want or demand from hotels?
Well, I've written about it, and I have a book coming out next year, beginning next year. I say it a couple of times in the book. I don't understand why our career field, we still don't give a free bottle of water and free internet. People demand it's the two biggest demands that corporate traveler wants. But more importantly, people want to basically transfer the comfort they have in their house. We all have our own comfortable chair. We have our comfortable space in our house. If you close your eyes and you think of where do I like to be in my house, there's always that one spot that you always just go to. So in a hotel, you have to find that spot, that comfortable space, whether it be a woman or a man, that they like to relax in. So people really want to feel like they're at home. You know, it's a very intimate, what we do is very intimate. People have sex in our beds. People sleep in our beds. People go to the bathroom in our bathrooms. People eat, drink, sleep. They find out about people who die. They get phone calls when they're in our rooms. When people pass away, they hear about wedding announcements. Everything that happens in your home happens in a hotel room. So people have to feel comfortable. So that really starts with cleanliness and a smile. But after that, it gets down to the comfortable bed. It gets down to the deep cleaning. So when I'm sitting on the bed and I'm looking in that corner, I don't see that dust. So I'm concentrating on my phone call, not concentrating on the dust in the corner. So really, you know, people simplify me and say, well, you're a clean guy. You like cleanliness and smile. No, I'm a lot more complicated than that. I'm a businessman. What I like is I like everything done well, and I like everything done so people don't think they're in a hotel room. They forget and they think they're in their home.
That's fantastic. Thank you for that. I think that's very insightful, and I think you're dead on with the bottle of water. It's such an inexpensive amenity that makes such a difference, especially if you've been driving for any length of time. I mean, it's nice to get that little refreshment. One of the things that we'd also like to ask you is, if you're on a tight budget, you got your bottle of water, you got your free Wi-Fi, you're a limited service hotel, what's the next thing you can do? What's the next thing you look at? You got your cleanliness down. You got your amenity at check-in. What's the next thing that your limited service hotel can look at to make a wow factor?
The connection at the reservation. When somebody makes a reservation, whether through the internet, whether through the phone, you first start reaching out to them as soon as they make the reservation. Call them a day later, a couple of days later. You welcome them. You say thank you for your call. I ran a hotel called the Lucerne Hotel, 177 rooms. I hired my director of reservations and revenue, Laura Quinn, and the first thing I said, fix it. It was a mess. It was an absolute mess. And the first thing she started to do, instead of fixing the policies and procedures, she started calling every single guest because she knew that our policies and procedures were so screwed up that the first thing she had to do is reach out to the customer. So people forget that the first point of contact is not Bellman. The first point of contact is when they make the reservation. And most people make their reservations online today, so reach out to that customer, that guest. You know, ask them what they need. Ask them, and that really feels like, wow, somebody's grabbed me, somebody's got me, somebody's going to take care of me. Also, social media, especially for the limited service and non-branded hotels, social media is big because it gives you that connection. You know, when people connect to me on social media or Twitter, they ask me all the time, is this really you? Yes. On social media, on Facebook, it's always me. Twitter, once in a while, if I'm in a meeting or if I know I'm going to be in production for 2 or 3 days, my assistant will tweet just to get back to people quickly. But by and large, it's me. And there's a connection there that people feel, that I feel, that really gets me comfortable in understanding what people are liking about the show. So we forget about that. And I think that is critical.
I agree. Actually, and people, I will back Anthony 100% here. That's how I got in touch with Anthony, was through a tweet. And we started a conversation, and he agreed to be on the the show, so I can attest to the fact that he's the real deal, guys. He's really out there. With what you just said, I just rewatched the Ocean Manor episode the other day.
Right.
And you said that the Bell staff was one of the keys to fixing that hotel. You went out and you actually you valet parked for somebody. How did that training help them? Did it pay off? Just as a follow-up.
Well, I think what it does is it makes me real. It makes them see me in an environment that I'm not always not always just talking and telling them what to do, but actually showing them and showing people. Always talk about my eye connection with the customer. I was concentrating, looking him in the eye, and
right.
Everybody knows that I looked him right in the eye, and they said piercing. And that's what people want. They want a connection, a real connection. And when you go to a church, go to a house of faith, it's because you feel comfortable and people connect to you. They even touch your arm, or they touch your shoulder, or they just smile at you, and they let you know you're safe, you're okay. The hotel business is no different. You get out of the car, you go into the pool, you go into the beach, or you're going into the hotel. Wherever you're going on that property, people just want to know that you know they're there. So when I did that, I think that's what's really translated to them, is that I had a human connection to people, and then I looked them in the eye. Whether they did anything after I left, we'll know next season when I go back and start recapping some of these hotels.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, before we let you go, Scott had one last question. Do you have time for one more question for us, Anthony?
I'm traveling, so I have another half hour in the car, so I have as much time as you need.
Fantastic.
Great.
All right.
Well, I would just want to touch back on social media. Of course, that's the kind of business we're in, and just how important it is. Would you recommend that hotels invest a little money into their social media program, hire maybe consultants, that sort of thing? How important is social media to the hotels of the future?
Well, I think personally, if owners and general managers are asking how important social media is to their hotel, they already have a problem. They should call the show, because they're probably going to go out of business soon. So if in 2012, if people are still trying to ask themselves how important is social media, I think that they have bigger problems. Social media is here to stay. Social media is the heartbeat, I believe, of the future of this business, simply because there's a whole generation that grew up on the internet, whole generation that grew up on games. So they're already used to communicating through social media, through the internet, bad or good. You just have to make it personal. You have to greet them when they come into the hotel. Oh, I saw you on Facebook. Thanks for liking us. Chris at the front desk will say hello to you. You just don't want to do everything on social media. You don't want to just bring everything to the internet, but you want to make that connection, and you want to force your staff to make that connection through social media. A lot of hotels don't connect their front desk to social media, and I think that's a mistake. It's a requirement. It should be a requirement for the front desk to also tweet and also go onto Facebook and say what's going on today. Today it's 10 o'clock. I just started my shift, and I'm really looking forward to so-and-so's wedding that's here, or whatever it is. And I think that's, I think that that's the next step. And I think that people who have been late to the game, that tells me something. That tells me that there's other things in their hotel they're not doing. We overcomplicate things. And one of the things you'll see on the show, I'm a simple guy. I like things that are simple. Most great companies concentrate on the simplicity of their company. And if you make a hotel simple, you will make it more comfortable because it's easy to access.
I actually just wrote this down yesterday. Simple things make great hotels. You just said that on a recent episode. I agree 100%. I mean, I really do. That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Another thing that we don't do I shouldn't say we don't do. Another thing that people miss the mark is, and I said this on one of the shows, piss poor preparation leads to piss poor performance. You have to be prepared. When I go down to these shows, a lot of people ask me about these hotels, is it staged? I will invite you down to a hotel when when the cameras are rolling, and you can write about the experience. And if you see anything that is staged, you can write about it. There is nothing that is staged in our show. Sometimes we have to do something different because I said, I used the wrong terminology, or I spoke over someone, or a director, spoke over me? Of course. Do I see something once, I think it's happened once, where I saw a guest do something and I asked them to just recreate that because I just saw it a second ago and my camera didn't catch it, and said, hey, can you just do that again? Yes, that's happened once. But 99.9% of the time, everything you see is happening. I don't have a script writer. I can't remember anything, so there's no way I can remember lines. People always ask me, do you have lines? I couldn't remember if they gave them to me. So no, the answer is no. And one of my favorite moments in the show is when I think Max was his name, the little boy at La Jolla, when I asked him, when you're older, will you hire me as a consultant? He said, you'll be dead by then. When I looked at it, I thought that was scripted. I said, man, that looks so scripted. And it was. He said that to me, and I didn't know whether to, thank him or whether to laugh, so I decided to laugh.
It was a great moment. It really was. That was priceless. Just to get back real quick to one of the things that you said, and then we'll let you go. I know you're driving and et cetera, but you mentioned how important it was to have your desk staff tweet. And, well, two things I want to say. First off, as far as scripting goes, for 22 years I've been in this industry, and you can't believe the things you see. So, I mean, hoteliers know that you're not scripted. You should feel comfortable with that. We know that what's happening really happens. We've seen it. We know, and we love that the whole world gets to see it. So thank you for that. But back to back to the front desk comment. I'll have owners talk to me and say, well, I'm afraid of what they're going to say. And, if you're afraid of what they're going to say, why are they on your front desk? I mean, isn't that key right there?
Well, the number one thing that I find, and you'll see it on a couple of episodes coming up, is that we don't take the time to interview people. And we're always in a rush. We're always afraid that person, we get rid of that person or promote them into customers, I say, and ask them to leave, that we're not going to find someone else. Eric Long, the president and general manager of the Waldorf Astoria, interviews almost every single person. He has one of the largest hotels in New York City, and he interviews every single person. And I found out that he exit interviews almost every single person. He spends the majority of his time, and he is one of the greatest hoteliers in the history of our career field. He spends the time, he speaks to people, he develops people. A lot of the executives at the Waldorf Astoria, they're former general managers, where they come and they work, and they're now department heads or they're resident managers or they're room division managers, and they used to be general managers. And I remember he actually asked me when I was general manager to come to run one of his divisions. So he spends a lot of time on interviewing, on finding that right person, because he says to me all the time, I've been very fortunate enough to be friends with him for a long time, and he says, either it's in your DNA or it isn't. That's it. It's that simple. And one of the things I've learned, and I tell my staff is, and the people that I consult for, I don't train people. Their mother and father train them. I show them to operate a computer. I show them some standards, but I don't train them. Their mother and father train them. Their mother, everything I learned in kindergarten. That book is the best book I've ever read. I can't teach people to be polite, because when I walk away, they're either going to be polite or they're not. There's nothing I can do. So I just think that one of the greatest mistakes that we do in this business, we're in the hospitality business, and we spend almost no time interviewing people. When I was at the Nickelodeon, I had, I think, 800 employees. I interviewed every single person in that property. On Tuesday afternoon, my assistant, Carla, we were from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. I would have people lined outside my office, and sometimes I only spent 3 minutes with them. Sometimes I spent 20 minutes with them. Depends. But every single person, I had to look them in the eye and decide if they were good enough to be at the Nickelodeon. So I even forgot your question because I'm so passionate about this subject. But I know it had to do with employees. It is critical that you spend time as a general manager interviewing employees. If you're too busy to interview your employees, you're the wrong person to be running a business, period.
You can't see me, but I'm standing up and applauding right now. ironically enough, our last podcast episode was a rebroadcast of one we did a couple of years ago. We felt so passionate about it, we rebroadcast it, and it's about hiring fundamentals. So thank you for. I mean, we say some of these things a lot, and we hear some of these things a lot, but to have that visual medium, to have your celebrity and cachet behind it, it's a blessing. I mean, we're really grateful for this TV show. Our industry has been so underrepresented on television, and Anthony, keep doing what you're doing. And remember, if you do run for president, you got 2 votes right here.
That's right.
Well, I really appreciate. I wrote this show 3 years ago down in my basement. I was watching television with my wife, and I was an asset manager at the time, and I had, I think, over $1 billion in an asset that I was responsible for, and we were developing another $1 billion asset in Times Square. And I loved being an asset manager because I learned a lot, but I just remember I needed the soul of the business of the people. So when I wrote the show, I was, I've seen all the cop shows, I've seen all the hospital shows, I've seen all the shows. And I'm not a big TV person, but, I over my career, whether it be Adam 12 when I was a kid or whether it be Hill Street Blues or what, you've seen all the cop shows, you've seen all the hospital shows. I just thought, how many people have seen a housekeeper clean a toilet bowl? How hard these people work, that we as general managers don't see our housekeepers clean toilet bowls because we don't want to see it. So we turn a blind eye to it. So when you saw me when that young lady cleaned the inside of the toilet bowl and then she wiped the top of the toilet bowl, it wasn't to embarrass her. It was to show her it's not your fault. You don't have rules, and people aren't giving you the policies and procedures to do your job. And I gave her a hug and I said, it's going to be okay. I love your passion. Because you're never on the show, and I'll sign my name to this. You will never, ever see me yell at an employee. Ever. You'll never see me scream or curse at an employee. You may see me yell at an owner or a general manager. Right. You may see that, but you'll never see me yell at an employee. Not because I won't do it for the show. I simply don't do it.
Right.
I've never seen a bad hotel because employees are bad. I've only seen a bad hotel because management is bad or owners are bad. I've never seen a hotel run into the ground because of employees.
No, I agree 100%. And again, I want to thank you so much for your time. Anthony, thank you so much. We're going to let you go so you can get on with making great hotels.
Well, I appreciate that very much, and I'm actually almost at my destination, so I appreciate it. And anytime you guys want me to be on, please feel free to give me a call, and I'll be happy to be on. And just a note, I think June 14th I'm going to be on Today's Show, so look for that.
Absolutely. Everybody, June 14th, the Today Show, Anthony Melchiorri, right. Hotel Possible. Thank you, Anthony.
My pleasure.
Okay, Scott. We just got off the call. Wow.
That was a great call.
I was trying not to geek out too much. I didn't throw out "I love you, Anthony," did I? I'm pretty sure I didn't say that, but I just want to make sure now that the initial rush is over that we didn't embarrass ourselves, right?
Oh no, I think that was a perfect call. He so many points that we have talked about in the past, and he knows his stuff. You can really tell,
and he's passionate about it. I want to hit 2 points. I wrote down 2 notes. Well, I took a lot of notes, let me be honest with you. Free water, free Wi-Fi, concentrate on reservations. Those are huge.
And so much of the front desk staff interaction, the first point of contact, might be the hotel website itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I also noticed him, after we got past the clean hotel and the friendly hotel, how he looked for a hotel that was comfortable, an extension of a person's home. That really was neat to me, too.
I'm in Alpine, I mentioned earlier, with Joshua, doing his annual visit. Actually, I show up at my hotels, at least 4 or 5 times a year, but this is his big visit, his 2-week visit, where I go through everything with him. And one of the things we spent doing the other day is, we have these activity tables, these Parsons tables in the hotel room, and invariably the table will outlast the chairs, correct?
Yeah.
So one of the solutions to that situation I see over and over again is you put the Parsons table against the wall, you put the chair like it's a desk. That's not comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You never want to have a fixed chair as a desk chair. So we spent the day reorganizing so that every Parsons table has 2 chairs, and every desk has a rolling. And this sounds basic, right? It sounds really basic. But if it's a desk, you want to be able to roll into it. You want to be able to scoot back, turn around, look at the TV. You're going to be spending some time there working. And if you've got a fixed chair, that's not the one for you.
Right.
And that may sound really, really basic, but when you come into the room, one thing you don't see a lot of is you don't see the guest reorganizing the room for their needs. They kind of take it as you give it. So if you're not thinking of their needs ahead of time, then they're going to feel like you didn't care. Mm-hmm. Is that about accurate?
Yeah. That just shows how important the overall design to a room can be. It is critical.
Another thing I wanted to point out, and I'm going to say this a little smugly, social media is not a thing of the future.
Yeah.
And he was pretty clear about that.
Right, it is now.
Yeah. There's no better indictment I have ever heard in our industry for social media. And, you don't believe me, you don't believe Scott, that's Anthony Melchiorri, okay? On top of that, look at, Hilton's embraced it, Marriott's embraced it. These are the big dogs, people. It's coming down the mountain. You need to join in or get out of the way.
Yeah, if you're not fully involved with it at this point, you've missed the boat. But I'm wondering just how far we'll go. Will each hotel hire their own consultant to help handle their social media? How much more can we bump up that engine for customer service and guest relations?
He focuses on full service. We focus on limited service. Let me give you my answer, okay? He's dead on. Your front desk should be tweeting and Facebooking and taking pictures. And by the way, pictures get more clicks than anything else. I can attest to that.
I didn't know that. Okay.
But on top of that, unless you have a dedicated staffer, you should have an outside program person or hired consultant that is monitoring to make sure that the customer service is there. And this is key. This week alone, my last blog post, I mentioned it, I was able to convert a guest from one hotel to one of my hotels and get 2 room nights. That doesn't sound like a lot, but this is every day. Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. This happens every day. If you have somebody that's monitoring it and responds within a reasonable amount of time, and I'll be honest, on this win, I didn't think I'd responded in time. The guy tweeted that he was at Amarillo. It was 2 hours later before I responded back to him. But for whatever reason, dissatisfaction with the place he was staying that night, whatever, the next morning he checks into my hotel, stays 2 days.
Wow.
It's there. You have to have someone monitoring it. And if you're not 100% sure that your desk clerk will have time in their 8-hour shift, then you need them to be supplemental and have a dedicated staffer. And again, it makes more sense to hire an outside consultant because they cost less in the long run.
Yeah, that's a pretty wild idea to have all of your staff Facebooking and things like that about your hotel. I mean, you really want to make sure you pick the right people that you hire because the wrong person could really work against your hotel too.
Yeah, he talked about how important hiring is. He also talked about how important it is not to yell at your staff.
Oh, yes.
I'll go a step further. Reward your staff on a regular basis. I don't know. When was the last time we talked about the Superhero Award?
I don't even remember that now. So what was that again?
Okay. This is easy. This is you know what? You got change in your pocket right now, Scott?
Uh-huh.
Okay, you got a Superhero Award. This is cheesy. This is dumb. This is silly. But it's a way to show that you care and you're thinking about someone. I get these Tootsie Roll bakes, right? Mm-hmm. I eat the Tootsie Rolls. I'll be honest. I eat the Tootsie Rolls. I throw change in there every day. Personal change. If there's 15-odd cents left in the bank, I throw it in there, right? When one of my staff does something that makes me say, wow, that was awesome, I go back. I've got these little superhero figurines that I got from a quarter vending machine outside of Walmart, right, years ago. I got about 20 of these, right? I glue that sucker on top of the Tootsie Roll, and I hand it to them. I usually will add $10, right?
Oh wow, yeah,
$20, whatever.
sure.
And I hand it to them, and sometimes it's got $1 and change in it. Sometimes it's got $50 and change in it. But the point is, whatever's in it is that person's.
Oh, that's great.
It didn't hurt me, and it came from me. And I mean, that's the key. My staff knows, all my staff know, the Superhero Award is my change. It's my savings, you know. It's not savings, but, you know, it came as a personal gesture, a personal token.
Right.
Above and beyond from the owner, above and beyond from the hotel. This is me saying, you people, the work you do is heroic. I can't scrub 20 toilets a day.
Oh, it really is. I look at how much effort our employees put out, and then you see on top of that them doing it with a smile, taking the time to say hello to a guest. They're high quality people.
Absolutely. And the funny thing too is let's get back to the Ocean Manor episode that we both watched last night, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've got a housekeeper that comes in, doesn't acknowledge the guest. She's on the phone the whole time. She's not the most hygienic person in the world. Apparently doesn't notice that he's torn apart the room, right?
No, she was too busy listening to music.
Yeah.
or on the phone.
We laugh. But we laugh because it's not the standard, it's the exception. You know, I mean, some of those elements, let's be honest, I see people with headphones on all the time nowadays. It's almost impossible to separate your employee from their cell phone.
Yeah, it really is. We had a no cell phone policy at one hotel that I had worked, and it was a good policy, but it was like sweeping back the ocean trying to get everyone to do it.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Okay, so instead of realizing that it's the exception that the employee ignores the guest, okay, and realizing that it's almost impossible to get rid of those smartphones, right? Why not convert them into tools to create a better relationship? If your employees has their phone on them and they see two people hugging and having a reunion in the hallway, they should offer to snap a picture for them and put it on the Facebook so that person can send it to their family or download it later or make a copy. By the way, Walgreens, right? CVS, Walgreens, they have kiosks that are linked to Facebook now.
Wow.
You can make a 5x7 from a picture on Facebook.
It's amazing how quickly things move. I mean, one person, it's hard to manage all of that, but there's just so much information just going through there.
Well, you know, it ties in with what he's saying. You want to make your staff your social media advocates because social media is not new. And my last blog post focuses on this. It's an extension of the age-old beating the pavement, developing relationships, cold call hotel salesperson.
Probably another reason not to yell at your employees.
Right, because they're all brand advocates, but they're also brand critics.
Yes,
and that's important. Good point, Scott. But you know, how many? Did you work in sales pre 9/11?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How many of those sales meetings ended up with a lunch? You know, most of them.
Yeah, and we had lunch quite a bit.
I know I gained 50 pounds in sales.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I wasn't proud of it, but it happened.
Yep.
And the cool thing about social media is you don't gain the weight.
Yeah.
But you're developing that same relationship.
Right.
You know, that same personal relationship. People didn't buy the hotel, they bought the staff. And that's what we really, I think, we're trying to say here.
That book that he mentioned, that's one of the first books I read when I was really launching my hotel career, was that Everything You Learn from Kindergarten book. I mean, I've always says it's how you're raised. He said, you know, mom and dad are the ones who train the employee. And
brilliant, right?
Absolutely.
Anthony, again, thank you so much. Hopefully you get a chance to listen to how fantastic you sounded. Because it made me feel, I'm inspired. I can't wait. I'm walking out of my office. I'm getting to my hotel, and I'm ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you feel that way?
Oh yeah, just really charged. I think too, when you watch that show, hotel people have a better insight than just anybody. I mean, while I'm watching that, I can tell that stuff is not scripted and not pre-planned. I'm watching. I'm like, yeah, this is totally true. This is what happens in a hotel. We have such a better insight when it comes to watching that thing.
On the flip side, you don't need that background because my wife watches the show with me, Susan. And Susan, God bless her, I mean, we've been together a long time, and she's seen my career for a long time, and she's watched me inspect hotels for 6 years for one of the largest hotel chains in the world. And until the show, I don't think she understood what I did.
Yeah.
And now she does. I mean, so that's cool.
Yeah, that's true that hotels have been underrepresented on TV, and a lot of people just don't know what goes on in the background. To run a successful hotel, it does take so much. It takes a lot of heart to do it right.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely making my family look at me a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for that alone, Anthony Melchiorri.
Yeah, we're up there with the police and firefighters now.
Oh, we're heroes. That's all I got to say. Well, once again, Scott, Anthony, thank you for joining me, and all of you listening, thank you for allowing me to talk to you about hospitality. We'll catch you next time.